right, welcome back. TJ Moe, I wanted to bring him on because I needed someone to perhaps argue that I'm crazy for rooting for Angel Reese tonight. TJ, I'm rooting for Kim Mulkey, and that makes me have to root for Angel Reese. I think that Mulkey is a more dangerous force and threat to the leftist agenda than Caitlin Clark, and so I want LSU to advance.
I'll probably after the first quarter and you start watching Caitlin Clark, you'll change your mind and we'll be on the same team again. But I will tell you the long-term ramifications of Caitlin Clark winning this championship, and I know tonight's just the Elite Eight, but she needs to win the championship, is that if she doesn't, Kim Mulkey, to the masses, goes back to irrelevancy. And look, I've never watched women's college basketball. I'm now a big Kim Mulkey fan, but I'm not likely to continue watching Kim Mulkey just for fun. Like, Caitlin Clark being in the mix is the only reason I'm watching the game tonight. She's the only reason I'm watching all the other games, because these people might play Caitlin Clark at some point. And so, look, it is her fifth national championship going to suddenly become the threat to the left. She's been the same threat to the left for all of her national championships. And so now maybe she's more relevant, and that's just because of Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin Clark needs to go win that national championship. And I don't think Caitlin's going to crack. I disagree with part of your mono there. Caitlin Clark is been in according to Jason Whitlock, the biggest star in all of sports going on 15 months or so. And she's not, as far as I can tell, uttered one woke word. She has she's from Middle America. She posted a picture of her and her boyfriend, which in a locker room that she comes from is somewhat of a controversial decision, and she's mostly stayed out of everything. And so I actually think Caitlin Clark is too big. She's so much bigger than women's basketball. She doesn't need to bow to the left.
So I used to think that you were too big to have to bow. And then I watched, and he's backed away from it, but I watched Patrick Mahomes do a bunch of leftist type stuff, and then he hasn't done anything since. But it's like when I saw Patrick Mahomes fold, it made me say, any of them will fold. And because, Patrick Mahomes trying to pretend like he's Black Lives Matter and he's, this, that, and the third, it blew my mind. And so I like your argument, because the WNBA and women's basketball is really, really dependent on Caitlin Clark. She's got a lot of leverage. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to give up, and they're going to offer so much money. Again, Caitlin Clark may start selling more gym shoes than 3 years from now than LeBron James ever did. And those from Nike to who I think she may be with Adidas or whatever, but they're as woke as anybody. And once they start dangling that money, I just.
You know who didn't crack,
as
far as I can tell, and maybe you have examples that I can't think of off the top of my head? Tom Brady, who was bigger than the sport. Tom didn't go either direction. Tom backed away from MAGA after he had the MAGA hat in his locker, but he never embraced the left.
That's folding.
I don't know. I don't know if backing away. But let's say this. Being neutral today is an irritation to the left. If Caitlin Clark never says anything, they're ticked. And so, by the way, Caitlin Clark, coming from a Catholic high school, and so likely a Christian background, I think, this is two Christian white women that we're talking about here that at this point have not folded. Kim Mulkey, I agree, is not going to fold. I'd be surprised if Caitlin folds. And I think the NBA is so woke. I can't think of anybody that's not woke in the NBA that has any relevance. But in the NFL, there are some guys. And Peyton Manning's not woke. Peyton Manning was bigger than the sport. When you have those few people that are actually bigger than the sport itself, and Caitlin Caitlin, as you pointed out, is Tiger Woods. Without Tiger Woods, nobody knows the name of the vast majority of the golfers. Tiger Woods isn't woke, right? Like, how many of these people that are so big have to bow to the woke mob?
They don't have to. They just figure out there's more money if they do. And look, let me take like Peyton Manning on. And again, I like Peyton Manning, but he is partnered up with ESPN. He doesn't need the money. He's doing his media career through ESPN. That to me is bowing to the woke mob. Again, this goes back to F you money versus F me money. When you have all that money, it's like, nah, I'm good. I'm not.
No, listen, Jason, you've never bowed to the woke mob, and you worked for ESPN twice and Fox twice. And nobody would ever say, Whitlock really bowed to the woke mob during those years that he worked for those guys. I actually think it's a bigger deal to be taking money from them and refusing to bow to them, to go on those airwaves and never do what they expect you to do. I've never heard Peyton Manning utter a woke word. Eli either. It's like, if you're so big, can you force them to have to pay you because you're so relevant and be on their platform and not promote any of the values that they want you to promote? To me, that's actually a bigger deal than just going to start your own thing.
Something is going to happen. And I'm joking when I say this, but I can't think of the great example, but some Iowa basketball player that Caitlin Clark played with will get arrested in Russia with her lesbian girlfriend or whatever. And Caitlin Clark, they'll be forced to make some sort of statement. And Caitlin Clark's going to say, they're going to do something to put her in a spot where she's expected to comment. And take what they did to Nick Bosa. Oh, God, he doesn't like Beyonce, therefore he's racist. Oh, he likes Trump, therefore he's racist. And they're going to do something, and she'll decide, well, if I just say this one thing, it'll get them off my back, and they'll never do it. And that's like what, in my view, Patrick Mahomes did. He did a few things to spray himself with off so those mosquitoes never hop on him. But I watched him spray himself with off, and I didn't like it, and I just haven't been because, again, I just don't think it's authentic.
He's black. There's a higher pressure to be woke, I think, if you're particularly a mixed race guy in a locker room and you're the quarterback. I think there's a higher pressure, certainly from the media, than Caitlin Clark.
And stupid teammates. Yeah.
Yeah, and stupid teammates, no doubt. Caitlin Clark, again, she's getting no pressure to be woke right now. No, she's in the middle of Iowa, right, surrounded by a bunch of white girls who sing High School Musical 2 instead of gangster rap for fun. And so there's not a lot of woke stuff happening in Iowa. So I agree. She will face it at some point. But I'm telling you, she's maybe, this goes to your point that I would argue against being a good option, but according to Ice Cube, she has options. Like, she's the first woman in world history to have options aside from going to play in a league that nobody's ever watched or would not exist without the subsidization of the NBA. And so I just think that, to go back to your Kim Mulkey point, she's been this way. And I didn't know this. You did, because you've been friends with her and following with her. But after reading that Washington Post article, the fifth national championship's not going to do it. She's already been saying F you to these guys for 10, 15, 20, however long she's coaching. She's never stopped.
No. I got you about the fifth national championship, but they want to install Dawn Staley. And so they need Dawn Staley to get her third national championship. And I think there's a better chance of LSU beating South Carolina than Iowa. That's the other part of my. They've already pushed Dawn Staley someplace she hasn't earned. They got her sitting out there like she's Gino Auriemma. Like Gino Auriemma needs to be doing those commercials with Coach K. And the next in line would be Kim Mulkey. But somehow they've skipped Don Staley ahead, and that's why they need to get her a third national championship and as quickly as possible a fourth so they can actually legitimize what they gave her. And again, it's no different than Barack Obama started a bunch of wars, but they still gave him a Nobel Peace Prize before he did anything. He was like, hey, for winning the election, you get the Nobel Peace Prize. And we'll justify it later.
Yep.
That's what they've done with Don Staley. And so I'm trying to I think LSU just has a much better shot of beating South Carolina.
I'm telling you, you watched the same game I did. If John Stockton shows up again the way she did this last game, that's the best I've ever seen a woman play basketball. If she's got that vision, I think LSU's in for a rough night, and I think South Carolina's in for a rough night if they play. That was the first time I probably watched 15 Caitlin Clark games. She's been shoot first most of the time. I get it. She averages 9 assists a game. She was pass first, and they ran up and down the court. I get it. It was Colorado, but Colorado looked really good against K-State, who you thought would beat Iowa. And so they had a little girl, Sherrod, I don't remember her first name, who was really, really fast. And it looked like Caitlin Clark was running circles around her when she was running up and down the court. So I don't think I agree. I think when you have a player that special who has the ability to hit from the logo, then you have a chance to beat anybody anytime.
They certainly have a chance. South Carolina has a 6'7" girl, this Cardosa, that's going to block some of those layups that Iowa's hitting off those dimes from Caitlin Clark. And it's just the number of second shots that South Carolina gets. It doesn't matter. They take good shots, bad shots. It doesn't matter if they hit the rim, don't hit the rim. They just overwhelm you with their size and physicality and put a bunch of putbacks in. I just can't see. And look, anything's possible. Iowa beat them last year. I don't think Don Staley is that good of a coach. He wins with talent. And so it is a possibility, but I'm just not that hopeful. Now, do I think USC and Juju Watkins can beat South Carolina? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And so that would be my fallback on this whole deal. But you've made such a compelling argument for Caitlin Clark and her not folding that I'm now back more 50-50 than I was. And maybe I gotta say you've actually done a decent job here arguing Caitlin's side. Things I didn't should have told me this before the show. But anyway. Don't miss a second of Fearless. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with all of our latest content.